everyone, and welcome to another episode of Remade, Rebooted, or Retired, where we go over nostalgic games from our past to see whether or not they should come back in the modern gaming market. My name is Canadian Guy A, and I cannot wait to start the show with all you beautiful people. As you may know, the video game market has been throwing around these remaster or remake terms like hotcakes on a Sunday morning, so there's a bit of a gray line between these comeback style games. A remake is a faithful recreation like the Crash and Spyro series with little to nothing added, but a reboot is when the game's mechanics have been completely changed and or the story has been scrapped and rebuilt from the ground up. A good example of this is the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Remake, as it keeps the same story beats, but the gameplay has been completely changed from its original predecessor. With that out of the way, let's get on to the show. Sly Cooper is an action platformer that was created by Sucker Punch Productions. Originally, when the company was formed, it actually had its roots tied to Microsoft. However, less than a year from the studio's conception, they actually broke ties with Microsoft, not producing anything, and signed up with Ubisoft to create their very first game, Rocket Robot on Wheels, for the Nintendo 64. However, in 2000, Sucker Punch signed up with Sony to develop games for the legendary PlayStation brand of consoles. Then, on September 23, 2002, the studio birthed a game that would go down in history as one of the best of its kind, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. You play as Sly Cooper, a coy raccoon whose family is known for being the greatest thieves in all of history. Known for their skills in theft and being masters with the hook weapons like Sly's cane, they had been known to be the thieves of numerous artifacts throughout history. The Coopers had a book called the Thievius Raccoonus. This book kept record of every new technique and move that each Cooper learned. However, when Sly was only a child, his parents invited over some friends and had some tea and crumpets and talked about the glory days. No, just kidding, they were murdered. Horribly. The group that did this was called the Fiendish Five. They took the pages of the Thievius Raccoonus and separated them among themselves. Sly was able to avoid them, but was sent to an orphanage where he met Bentley the Turtle and Murray the Hippo. They became childhood best friends and created the Cooper Gang. Following the legacy of his family, Sly is ready to make his mark. But first, he needs to get back what was rightfully his, the Thievius Raccoonus. With it, he could become a master thief like the rest of his family. The game had many platforming aspects that many games before have done, but Sucker Punch had not only taken those aspects from previous games, but they took them and then mastered them. Sly is acrobatic and can run like the wind, jumping platform to platform while making the player feel basically unstoppable. But what made this game extraordinary was not the fantastic platforming. Sucker Punch injected something unique and beautifully done for this genre. That was the constant element of stealth. Like most games of its kind, they normally encourage searching around and taking out enemies with your combative skills. But in this game, though you can fight the enemies, stealth is almost always the best approach. The enemies are tough and plucky, but with proper use of being sneaky, you can take them out easily. You can also steal items and coins off of these enemies, but putting you at risk of getting caught. If you are caught, they will alert those around you to come and attack you. You either have to stand your ground and fight off hordes of enemies who are now increased in difficulty because now they see you, or run away and slink back into the shadows. The game's art style is also quite impressive with its cel-shaded comic book styled effects and cinematics, making the game stand out even more compared to the competition of the platforming genre. One of my favorite things about the game is that it also had charming sound effects when you were sneaking around, playing a sneaky cartoon piano sound that is timed to Sly's footsteps. The game overall got a very positive 8.6 out of 10 with the critics and was well received overall. However, though the first game was well received, the second game performed even better. Sly 2 Band of Thieves continue the story of Sly and his gang, except this time you can play as the powerhouse Murray and the brainiac Bentley. The game took its original controls and refined them even more to be able to perform even better than before. Remember how I mentioned some of the best aspects of the franchise was the implementation of stealth? Well, in the first game it followed more traditional platforming tropes like having sort of a hub world with multiple levels in between, making the stealth option in missions feel linear and kind of forced. But in Sly 2 is where the game converted from its traditional platforming roots to its semi-open world based formula, creating a sense of choice for your options of missions and playstyle. This is the franchise favorite as the game scored a wonderful 8.8 out of 10. The next game took another angle to playing different characters. Sly must gather more allies than just Murray and, well, you know, Bentley.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Bentley's now crippled.
Wait, what? Sly, why?
Because Bentley, character development. In this game, they need to deal with a new villain who has discovered the Cooper family vault and is trying to solve its secrets. Sly must meet new faces and ally with old nemesis to build a big enough team to be able to take on the ultimate heist. Each character has unique skills that brings a sparkle of originality to the game. The game scored an 8.3 out of 10, rounding off the trilogy. However, after the third game, Sucker Punch walked away from the franchise to develop other games. Sony gave the rights to a third-party company called Sanzaru Games, who created Sly 4 Thieves in Time. The Thievius Raccoonus is losing its pages magically, and in order to figure out what is happening, Sly and the gang have to go back in time to meet with some of Sly's ancestors to find out what is causing a rift in time. This game is definitely a lukewarm debate among fans due to its overall gameplay, story, and cliffhanger ending that did not satisfy fans. Also, there's, you know, this. Whether or not this is a negative or positive, I'll leave that for you to decide. However, the game still scored a reasonable 7.5 out of 10. Since then though, even after the cliffhanger ending, just about nothing has been seen or done of Sly Cooper. Like Jak and Daxter, he was featured in 2 separate spin-offs, but like what was previously said in my previous Triple R episode, neither did overwhelmingly well. Now, are these games still relevant today? Well, there obviously is a diehard fan base for the franchise, but most people only have fond but faint memories of this game. Though excellent, Sly didn't quite reach the same level of legendary status like, you know, Crash Bandicoot or The Legend of Zelda. However, Sony still holds to a strong sense of fondness for this game as they brought it to the PlayStation Now. On top of that, there has been a movie that's been in development. It kind of was put on hold for a long time, but reports are coming out that the series has been changed to a TV show and will be launching at the end of 2019. Whether or not this date will be followed through is up for debate, but the fact that the money is being put forward for the series to be made into a show means that Sony still finds this IP relevant. So, with all this information, should Sly Cooper be remade, rebooted, or retired? Remade. Now, I want to clarify, I think the original 3 games should be remade from the ground up, like how Spyro and Crash were done. I do not think the 4th game should be remade as it was done on the PS3 and the graphic fidelity still holds strong today. Not to mention it's on the PlayStation Now store, so it's also very easily accessible. But why should the original 3 games be remade? See, Sly Cooper's art style was unique for its time. The cel-shaded comic book effects really made this game stand out from the crowd. Seeing this game with modern stylized graphics sounds like an honest-to-goodness dream come true for the eyeballs. That was probably one of the weirdest sentences I have ever said.
That's probably one of the weirdest sentences I have ever heard.
Don't make me break out the crowbar again.
Yo mama!
But to add on to that, the base mechanics of the game are still strong and have held well overall through the years. Not that it can't use some modern adjusting, but the game's core controls are strong, not requiring a completely new set of mechanics. Only remaking the original 3 games also gives Sony and the developers an option for future Sly games. That option is to whether or not to pick up where Sly 4 left off, or to ditch it overall, as many fans feel quite bittersweet about that game, especially one of the plot twists and ending. But it can also continue where it left off. As I said, it allows choice. On top of that, the story of Sly is actually quite unique as well. Though it is targeted towards a younger audience, there are many dark tones and serious issues, making it unique to the platform genre when it comes to stories. Unlike Crash and Spyro, Sly Cooper actually has a depth of story. I mean, Sony is making a TV series about the franchise, so that's gotta mean something in terms of storyline, right? Speaking of the TV series, a release of a remake would do great with the release of the show. They would be able to interact marketing-wise and cause an increase in traffic and cash for the company. Overall, Sly Cooper was a unique, albeit slightly under-marketed game that could make a bolsterous comeback today, especially with the remake and nostalgia trends. The TV show could help market it, and the remake can be a test for future Sly Cooper games. Remaking only the original trilogy will allow the option to Sony whether or not to continue where Sly 4 left off, or ditch it entirely and start off with a new trilogy. In the end, I think Sly would be a fantastic entry into the nostalgic wave of comebacks, and it would do better than ever before in today's market.
In the remake, can I get my ability to walk back?
No, Bentley, that would require a reboot.